if you've already started sprouting your beans and lentils and peas as I do, then you are already on your way to being a gardener. So these are already sprouted through, and I'm going to have to do something with them soon. I might green them up in the window first before I eat them, but what I do to start my seedlings is I get Pro-Mix. So sometimes I don't use Pro-Mix. Sometimes I mix my own mix using peat. So if I'm doing the peat bale culture, which I love to do, if you follow my blog, you see the peat bales, and you'll have to use the peat bales to grow your tomatoes and peppers and whatever in. You'll need to take some of that peat out because they're really full. So you take a Rubbermaid tub and you take some of that peat out, and then you can mix in some other stuff. If you like perlite, like you can see there's perlite in Pro-Mix. Right there's a perlite clump. And you'll probably want to use some compost. So you can bake the compost in the oven in like a casserole pan or whatever, just to kind of clean it up a bit. Or whatever, if you don't care, then you might end up getting fruit flies hatching out of it. And you can put up those sticky tags, which I still haven't shown you how to make, but it's really simple. You just use corn syrup on some yellow plastic, like from your, say if you have Sunlight dish soap containers or laundry soap containers, whatever. So anyway, you take that peat and you put it in a Rubbermaid tub with whatever else you're going to put in there, and then you add some water to it. I use warm water. I used to use hot, but then I thought, you know, there's probably chemicals leaching through the plastic from the Rubbermaid tub into the... So anyway, I don't anymore. I use the warm. And that'll soak into the peat. And then you put your mix into the trays that you're going to use. I use just recycling trays. I find these are the best. Or the like ones that they put, like these are Costco turnover trays. And you can just give the turnovers to your friends that like eating turnovers. And then you have wonderful trays. And see, I've put the seeds. You can see how far I've spaced them out. Now, you don't have to space them out very far. You're not going to be growing them in here very long. So you just want to space them out enough. And if you've moistened your peat moss in the Rubbermaid tub first before you put it in these trays, then the seeds will kind of stick to that. So then you'll have nice little rows. So you can see better with these ones. These are the Lemon Boy seeds. So they're bigger than the other ones. The other ones that I'm growing starting today are cherry tomatoes. So those are the ones that are red on the bottom and black on the top with the star right on the top. They're quite lovely, and they keep a very long time. They're the last I eat usually. And then these ones, what did I put here? Oh, they were the orange fingernail ones. So they're the smallest tomatoes that I grow, and they happen to be the smallest seeds. And that tends to be how it is, but it's not always the case. Sometimes you have like a really small cherry tomato, but some reason it has big seeds. So it's not a hard and fast rule. And so anyway, then I will cover those seeds up with some mix and water it a little bit. And then because I've moistened the mix already a little bit, then hopefully my seeds won't be floating around there and I'll get a clump coming up in the middle or whatever. So I have labeled these on the bottoms of the trays, which is fine because these, I don't poke holes in these things. They don't stay in here very long, so I don't care. And I end up using these trays later for my pots that have holes in the bottom. Now, this, you want to write on the bottom of the tray, because if you, once you take the, like say, like I'll be covering these up to keep the humidity up because it's very dry in my house right now, as it tends to be in people's houses in winter in Canada. So eventually you'll take the top off this once these have sprouted up. So if you write on the top of the tray here, then well, you don't know what kind of tomato you have. And because I often use the same kind of trays to plant in. In this case, I didn't. It's just one kind, so I just have to find the lid and I'll know what I have there. But anyway, I planted those really close, so I have to do something about it. Pronto. So let's see if I can get this all set up properly. Oh dear. Anyway, that's gonna have to do because I can't really do it any better. So, let's get started here. First, before I cover those up, well, I guess I can cover them up first. It doesn't really matter. So I'm going to put a little bit of soil. Well, it's not really soil. It's peat paste. But anyway, I'm going to cover them up. And I'm not going to worry about it too much. They're pretty forgiving. But I remember when I was working at the Calgary Zoo a very long time ago, when I had just popped out of Olds College, and we were planting tulips, and the depth of the tulips was roughly 3 times the height of the tulip bulb. So you put the tulip bulb in, it looks kind of like a head of garlic. Well, not really, because anyway. So it doesn't really matter. So it was 3 times, and so I went home and I'm like, I wonder if that's a hard and fast rule for everything. 3 times the size of the seeds. You can see tomato seeds are very small, and you don't put very much mix on top. And eventually I'll be putting some patio tomatoes in this container, but I'll use this just to fill these, and then I'll fill that one back up, this container back up with some mix, and put the patio tomatoes in. Anyway, so I went back home and I was looking at different seeds and the depths that they should be planted at, and I put this one a little bit too deep, too thick. Anyway, who cares? It'll be fine. And I was, for a while there, I was thinking, oh yes, because it seemed to be a good rule. And then I found some that it didn't work for. But you know, if you happen to be away from a computer and you can't find, or you don't know I mean, it's pretty much the same. If you say you get a tomato variety, you don't know what it is, well, look up a different tomato variety for depths or whatever, and you'll probably be just fine, right? It's really not that hard to grow tomatoes. People have been doing it in their houses forever. And so there we go. So that's all done. And now, I guess I'll close this up, and anyway, I'll water that in later. But that'll work for that. So, yeah. Now, Paris really likes eating yogurt. So, I get to use yogurt containers for transplanting my tomatoes into first, and then I'll transplant into some pots later on. I also have seed packs, which I've saved for years. I've been using the same seed packs like 10 years or whatever, and they still hold up. I just store them, and then I use a 10% bleach solution to wash the containers and then rinse them, and then they're fine. I go ahead and plant them. So I'm putting a little hole in the middle. You can use your finger or whatever, but as it turns out, I have these lovely little forks, and the ends are about finger size, so it works out really great. So Paris eats the yogurt, and then I get the pot. So let's see what I can do here. I'm gonna kind of scoop them up like a little, use this like a little garden cultivator-ish. Oh, there's my little babies. There we go. I'll stick that back in there. Oop, don't want that to fall. And right now their seeds or their roots are not very big, but they're really crowded, so I needed to get them into pots so I can show you with these guys. I don't know what I did here. Sometimes I wake up 2 in the morning and I can't sleep and end up doing something like plant tomato seeds or something. I can't explain why these are so crowded and why I don't have the names on the bottom of the pot, but somehow. Anyway, so take some more out. Oh, come on, little buddy. There we go. No, this year I'm going to be starting some basil seeds right with my tomatoes. I don't know if it'll work out. Okay, that's gone for now. That's wanting to stay on my hair. Because if you've looked into it, I guess I'll just plant those together. They're companion plants, so I figure I may as well plant them right in the same pot. We'll see what happens. They might get to be too big and shade up my tomatoes, or I don't know. It might not work out. Come on, little buddy. Let go. Stick that in there. I'll just put those in the same hole. They seem to want to stay together. Way too many. But, you know, last year I planted lots and Elvis wrecked so many that I figure I may as well plant lots this year and just see what happens. But this, I can't explain this. This is crazy. This is, I don't know what I did here. Too many tomatoes in one spot. Oh my. So, I'm going to just fill up the little holes. And you want to leave a little room at the top so that, come on, little guys. Oopsie. So that you have somewhere to catch the water. So you see how I'm using the lid from one of my containers, and this was a, I don't know, maybe a banana bread or a something kind of bread container, maybe stolen. I ate some stolen this morning. So, I use that for catching the water. I'll also use the bottoms of the containers where the seedlings are actually planted, where I plant my seeds. I'll use that too for drip trays for the plants when I transplant them into containers. Now, normally I wouldn't be transplanting these guys so soon, but like I want them to get at least a couple leaves, a couple true leaves. These are not true leaves. You can see the true leaves are just starting to come out of the middle of there. But the first leaves are, this isn't, like, you don't know that these are tomatoes when you look at them. When they're little seedlings like this without their true leaves. These are just their seed leaves. And they just look pretty generic. There's one true leaf. It'll come out, right out the middle. Okay, you're getting tangled. You don't want them to get tangled too much. Or they'll pretty much stay that way, and then you'll end up breaking them. I'm covering up a couple there. I don't think they'll live. I don't care. I have lots. And then when you water them, and if you have a bunch of water pooling at the bottom of your tray, you'll want to dump that out. Oh, and I forgot to mention, I cut holes in the bottoms of these yogurt containers. So I'll show you. See? So that the water can come out of the yogurt containers. Because once the roots hit the bottoms of the containers, they do not like soaked water. So if you have like really muddy soil or potting mix pooling at the bottom of your containers, your seedlings will just die. They do not like it. And then, like, you could keep them a little bit drier. They're not as, like with peppers, they're more forgiving. which you'd think, okay, they like it dry, but they like it dry. So you can let them dry out and they're not going to die on you. Whereas these guys, they might. So you definitely don't want to not put holes in the bottoms of these containers unless you're really experienced at growing them. So anyway, that's that. So I've shown you how to put the seeds in and cover them up, and when they come up as seedlings, put them into pots. And once they grow, you'll know when to transplant them to the next size of pot, because you'll have to water them a lot. And you'll be so frustrated watering them often that you'll just transplant them, because the mix will dry out so fast. There won't be enough water in there to keep them going, and so you'll have to water to keep them going and just end up transplanting them. So that's it. That's all you do. And then you just put them in a sunny window. Or I guess you could use supplemental lighting if you care to, but I just have my seedlings crowded around my sunniest windows of my house. And like normally I would not do this in my kitchen, but this is the only room with light for my camera that I have left. So this is where I'm doing this today. But anyway, that's that. So good luck with your garden.